So how are people in Alberta reacting to Poilievre's remarks? For more, we're joined by Rob Breckenridge, a columnist for the Calgary Herald. And Rob, Pierre Poilievre says those who vote for Alberta separation are not our enemies. What's your sense of how his message will be received in Alberta?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. And I think he's the kind of political leader who can get through to a lot of these Albertans who are feeling frustrated or feeling like their voices aren't being heard, that they're not being listened to. I think that the risk for Pierre Poilievre is sort of linking, a better Canada to a conservative government. And I think at the same time, I think there's some frustration in Alberta that, Alberta voted 4 times in a row for a conservative government and didn't get it. So how is that going to change moving forward? How is he going to bring about the change he campaigned on in the last election, but was unable to deliver? So I think there's some challenge for him around that side of things. But I think it's important to have him as a part of this conversation and making the case for Canada. I think that's important and valuable on the part of federal leaders.
Was there anything that he said or anything in the way he said it that surprised you?
Not really. And I think what moving forward, though, is going to be interesting is how he addresses the MOU and some of the steps that have been taken between Alberta and Ottawa, and how that message might possibly conflict with what the Alberta government is saying. And certainly we've heard from Alberta's premier, who has held up the MOU, has held up some of these agreements on, eliminating or casting aside what she calls the bad laws. She's held this up as a major accomplishment, a major political victory, something to build off of. I think, the opposition, the federal Conservatives, have been a lot more skeptical about the value or the seriousness of the government's commitment to moving forward on all of this. So how is he going to address that in speaking to Albertans? Because I think there are certainly a lot of voices in the separatist camp who have said that this agreement's meaningless, none of this is going to happen. I don't know if it's helpful or productive for Pierre Poilievre to come through Alberta and say, yeah, you're right, none of this is really going to happen under a Liberal government. So finding that balance between saying, yes, things could be better and we understand your frustrations, but also being willing to acknowledge that things are changing and there are some positive developments happening.
So the Poilievre speech, clearly, I'm assuming, the big political story in Alberta. The big political story nationally today is, for many people, the official appointment of Louise Arbour as Canada's next Governor General. Has that gotten much attention in Alberta? And if so, what message is there for the province?
Not a lot, honestly. And I think that's sort of part and parcel with how the position has evolved into something that I think is a lot less relevant for Canadians. And maybe that's partly the lower profile that Mary Simon took, and of course some of the missteps or controversies with some of her predecessors. So I don't know that it's necessarily something that's engaging Albertans or other Canadians, honestly. I think there is a level of respect for Louise Arbour. I think if anything, there's some frustration in Alberta or out west that, once again, it's been decades since we've had a Western Governor General. Maybe this was an opportunity for that as sort of a signal or a gesture to the West or to Alberta that they have a voice at the table when it comes to the leadership in this country. So that maybe there was a missed opportunity in that announcement, perhaps, a sense that it's kind of the so-called Laurentian elite that still run this country. It kind of plays into that narrative, and I think there are a lot of folks in Alberta who have made that case that we just don't have a seat at the table. We're not involved in making these decisions. There's sort of that central Canadian elite that runs the show. And I think, this appointment plays into that narrative. So maybe there was a missed opportunity there. But yeah, I think today with Poilievre's speech, everything else going on in Alberta, that's dominating the conversation.
It's always nice having your voice on the national media. Rob Breckenridge, a columnist for the Calgary Herald. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Ian. Thanks.